So welcome back, everybody. This is Paul again, and a lot of people have seen a lot of my videos on YouTube and so on, and I make a lot of comments on Facebook, and I thought I'd try a new approach. Instead of trying a lot of text comments and so on, to actually put a few personal words in and some video and so on, and share my thoughts. I'm just a person out here. I make a lot of observations and so on, and I really think it's important to have some neutrality here, because we live in this system that our political system is very divisive and very bipartisan and so on. And I think it's important to have like a neutral voice, someone just sitting on the sidelines and say, look, I see what's going on, and it's a helpful voice. So that's what I'm trying to do here, just give a little information. And one of the things I do is I do a lot of reading, and I listen to interviews, and I do a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't have the time for. And then I just try to relay the information. And as we all know, sometimes a messenger gets kind of like, okay, I don't like your message, so I'm going to get mad at you. And I've irritated a lot of people in different ways to my political comments and so on. But here we are in this political system, and we have this really incredible moment here that's going on, and I've been talking about that. We live in a really, really a crisis moment. I really believe that. We may not perceive it that way because we're going about our business and maybe our life is quite comfortable. But if we do a little news and we do a little reading and checking and behind the news and see what's going on, we'll realize that indeed there are just a tremendous number of really, really critical things going on. For example, it wasn't that long ago, about a year and a half ago, that I believe it was in France, and President Obama, and there was the French president, I think he was, and they're talking about, okay, we got 500 days to deal with this climate. 500 days, that's done. We've been through that 500 days. So they were giving some kind of a warning for what? And, in our lives, we don't seem to understand that, things can happen. And they do happen. And, when something really, really big happens, say a stock market collapse, it's not like somebody, usually tells you a couple months in advance, say, hey, everybody get ready and everything's cool, but we're going to have like a drop in the stock market, and nobody believes you. And the point of a trend watcher like myself isn't to say, well, look, there's a certain date, and, there's going to be a catastrophe on this date, and all of that. That's not the point. It's not the point to make fear. It's a point of just saying, look, we are in an environment in which, if you're really honest, non-political, and look at it from a neutral point of view, we're in a situation here where if we want our civilization to be better, if we look around and say, okay, it's full of chaos, there's tons and tons of chaos going on, well, how are we going to make it better? We're not going to make it better by a political savior, by having the right vote. I mean, a lot of people, every election, we assume that the majority of the people or whoever decide, okay, well, we want this guy to be in here, or this woman. And they get in there and they do their thing, and they just, it's not, then 8 years later, whatever, like, well, we got to find someone new because we still got problems here. So whatever the system is, you can't really say that one party is better than the other party, because the only way to have a solution is that both parties really work together, and then you start breaking down the divisiveness. Unless there's some reduction in the divisiveness, there's never going to be any bridges built. And it seems to me that's just a plain common sense. It doesn't really take much, to figure that out. But apparently, it is very complicated for some politicians to figure that out. Because here we have, a system that's just full of corruption. And it's just not, here in this country, in the West, it's like all over. I mean, it's just a system, corrupt system. So that's why I'm a political atheist. I stand on the side and say, okay, look, I know that there is going to be no political solution, certainly not in my lifetime, to any of the huge issues of our time. And if we take some of these really big issues, if we really believe that, say, climate has reached a peak and, now we're over the top and, all the consequences are going to happen, and if we really, really believe that, we better start emptying our coastal cities and start getting the buses going and building some cruise ships and get all the evacuation plans going on. But we're not doing any of that. All people are just talking, well, fear, 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 watch out, we've reached over the top, climate's changing, whatever. But I don't see any boats being built or anything. I don't see anything, any mitigation things. I mean, what really can be done, really, in certainly in a short period of time. So that's why I signed the line. I mean, at some point, you just have to say, this is a law of physics. Okay, you boil, you put the heat on at a certain point and everything. At some point, that's just the law of physics. It starts to boil, and then the pressure builds up, and then there's steam, and then it's just like a whole other thing's going on. Now we're in a transformational phase here, a morphing. Civilization, as we know it, is morphing and changing while we're on it. It's kind of like walking on sand. Well, you can feel it being moved under the, the water's coming in and out, and you just feel that sand shifting under your feet. And the whole culture is built on such tenuous bonds. One power outage from the sun, one blast from the sun, one missile with an EMP blast over the country, something like that could happen, and next thing you know, bang, we're back and, you're boiling your water and you're using candles. And maybe after you use up your gas, you can figure out how to ride a horse again. So... But the good news is that for thousands of years, civilization did, human beings survived on the planet just fine and did all the functions and became enlightened or whatever they needed to do without electricity. And the thing is, we don't want to become dependent. We have become so dependent on our technology that we don't know how to fix anything. We don't know how to grow our food. It's a kind of illusion that we're living in. We say everything's going fine, but if everybody stops and thinks, wait a minute here, one power outage away from begging in the streets. And if you have low food, if people take some precautions and start saying, okay, we're going to mitigate that somehow by having some basic support systems in place, gathering maybe some extra food and whatever materials you think you need in a crisis in case something happens. So, I'm a political atheist because I feel like I cannot really honestly say, okay, I go into a restaurant and I say, okay, both the only things on the menu, there's two different things on the menu and they both smell bad and they both taste bad and I'm not interested in either one. And, if there's a candidate that can come and say, I convince you to vote for me, then I'll vote for them. But, all I hear is a lot of promises and a lot of plans, and anybody can have a plan. Hey, look, I got this great plan. Look, the plan. See, the plan means 10 million more jobs, but what's the plan about? Like, what are the details? How are you going to get it implemented? It's a great plan. Yeah, it's great, So it's hard not to be cynical about politics when you see what people do. And all of us here, we really don't have time to have faith in politics anymore, honestly. I mean, think about it. Okay, let's hope for, let's say, okay, Hillary gets in. And a lot of people, my friends, say, Hillary's the only one. Okay, she's the only one that, even remotely looks like a president or whatever. Okay, so let's get her in there. Fine. We got Hillary in there. What's going to change? The war in Syria is going to change? No. GMO is going to change? No. Bank's going to change? Farmer going to change? Nothing's going to change. What's going to change? The minimum wage is going to change? Maybe. What else is going to change? With Hillary. And God help us if Trump gets in, and my God, he'll change a bunch of things for the worse really fast. He might do a few good things. So I've made comments on YouTube and so on, and on Facebook, and saying, look, I really don't think, I think we're kind of doomed. I mean, I say it with a kind of tongue-in-cheek. I think we're kind of doomed because, whoever gets in charge, there's going to be some problems. Big, big, big problems, and the big problems aren't getting solved. So if the problems aren't getting solved, You know, like we're sitting in a canoe. Like, okay, let's say you're in a bus and you have like two different drivers, okay, and one's sitting in one side, and one's going this way, and one's going that way, and all you just sit in the back and think, wait a minute here, I'm getting sick. The bus goes this way, goes that way, goes this way, goes that way, and this way, and say, excuse me, you knock on the bus driver and say, hey, excuse me, do you mind? Do you mind if we just like stop for a second and pick a road and pick a choice and think about where we're going here before we crash? So I try to have a lot of sense of humor about this, and a lot of times when I post on Facebook or something, you know, text is very dry, you don't get it, and you know, people like hate you because you say something, you know, they take it wrong. But I'm just trying to be extremely, extremely realistic and say, look, you know, we don't have a lot of time here. We don't have a lot of time for climate. We don't have a lot, and the politicians, if we get somebody in power, okay, and there's just going to be nonstop fighting like there has been for the last 8 years. Obama get in. The first thing everybody said, okay, we got to block everything he does. I mean, hello? We need to just get all those people out there and say, excuse it, look, I'm sorry, but you know, you don't understand the situation here. You got to go bye-bye. We got to have new people in here who can actually help us solve the problems. Now, I'm facetious about that, and I joke, but I mean, really, you know, are we going to solve the old problems with the same people and the same kind of thinking? No, that's just not going to happen. And deep down, I think all of us really know that, and we hope. Okay, Obama was hopeful, you know, and then Bush was hopeful, and then Clinton was hopeful, and then what have we got for the last 30 years? Go back 30 years. What? Clinton, Bush, more Clinton, Bush CIA, Bush Vice President, Clinton Secretary of State, all this stuff. Clinton, I mean, all this, just a few families just like doing their mischief or whatever they're doing behind the scenes. They talk nice and whatever, blah, blah, blah. They look nice, whatever. You know, I'm a real person. I feel for you, you know. So I hate to be very cynical, but I can't help it. And, you know, I don't mean to offend anybody by comments I make on Facebook or anywhere. But, you know, it's okay to be really cynical about political systems because that's not the reality of our existence. I mean, there's a lot more to being a human being than the participation in the political systems. And, you know, if human beings, if we don't like the political system that we're in, we have to change it. We have to change it on every single day in the things that we do. And the system, if the system is designed in a corrupt way that is very difficult to change for any average person, and only people can have influence are people with billions and millions of dollars, well, that's just like, we can't have that. That's not the basis of a real civilization, and that either is going to collapse or it's going to have some other kind of change. But it just, if a system is built on a house of cards that it cannot survive on, then it is really doomed. And we just have to have in mind how we might participate in a different kind of system. Should we say, okay, you know, what if we wanted to redesign a system? Okay, this one's broke, let's try to fix something. Okay, what are we going to do about it? How are we... You know, that's what the founders of this country tried to do, is to have something new. And think, okay, let's think here. We want freedoms here, you know, and that's what we got. So now, here we are, about to have an election, and let's see what happens. But I'm going to sit on the sidelines on this one.